Are you ready to learn how to make your own UV DTF designs? Then this video is for you. I'm Corinne Blackstone and welcome to my craft room. In today's video, we're going to be using Kittl and I'm going to show you how to make two different designs for Libbey cups. So I've got this little one with like bows on it, and then we have a matching set. I'm going to show you how to make a wraparound Libbey cup design with some crayons and then a matching decal that you can use on like a notebook, a clip board, whatever you want to use it for. But we're going to learn how we can design everything in Kittl. It's super easy and a lot of fun. Before we get started, be sure that you're subscribed here on YouTube. That way you don't miss out on any fun, crafty content we have coming. Be sure to check the video's description for a link to Kittl if you want to try it out. Without further ado, let's get started. We're going to start here in Kittl to create our two designs. This is a really easy website to use, I promise. I know that sometimes they look really intimidating, but you can totally do this. So in Kittl, what you're going to do is you're going to go over to the create word here because we want to make a sized template for our cup wrap. So what it's going to do is it's going to go ahead and load, and it's going to ask you for some information. Like you can choose their preset sizing, but like I said, we need to make a custom. So what we're going to do is go to units, and I want to change it from pixels to inches. Now, this does only go to the 2 decimal points. So to make our cup wrap, we're going to use 9.4 because it's technically 9.397. We'll just make sure to keep things away from the very edge. And then for height on this, it's 3.93, so I'll make it 3.94. That little tiny difference shouldn't make any change. So now what I'm going to do here is click the word create, and it's going to give me an artboard, and this artboard is the size of my Libbey cup wrap. Now you can use this for any kind of cup wraps that you want to, any sizing. You just need to know the size, and then you make your artboard that size. It's just like making a template. Now to create this, we're going to use some fun designs here inside of Kittl. And what you're going to do is you're going to go to the little flower over here on the left, and this is your illustrations. There's lots of things that you can choose from over here, but I do find that illustrations works really well for this. Sorry, my mouse is jumping around. Now you can of course add whatever you want to. There's all sorts of different things here. You could scroll this way, but we want to look for more so like school related. So I'm going to look for the word just school and see what we can find. So we've got some school buildings. We've got like a back to school sign, a school of fish. So it's going to kind of find anything that like is school involved. So like we've got this cute little crayon. He's adorable. I really like him. We might use him. Got a little worm and an apple. This little guy is super cute. So there's all sorts of things. Now you do not have to make this exactly the same way I do if you want to use a different like theme, whatever. This is just to show you how to do this. So maybe instead of looking for school, let's look for an apple and see if we find an apple that we really like, and then we can kind of build off of that. Now, because we're doing UV DTF, we can use things that look like real apples if we wanted to. We can use ones that are distressed if we want to. So we don't have to use just like a specific type of image or choose one that maybe doesn't have a lot of detail. This we can be as detailed as we want. Honestly, these two are pretty cute, but I don't know if I'm going to find anything else to match them. But what's really fun is I can just choose the apple that I want, and you can just put it over here onto our artboard. So I'm going to choose both of these guys. We can come back and delete them later if we don't find anything else that really matches with our vibe here. So you can just choose, like we do like this apple, we can go ahead and choose him. So there's all sorts of things. Now I will say every once in a while I accidentally, for some reason it puts 2 on here. I never know why. It's always done that to me. I don't know if I'm doing something wrong, but I'm going to just spread those out. I'm going to look and see if I see any other apples that I like. If I don't, we'll try for another word. I think I'm pretty happy with that. So let's look for a pencil. Now this is where I think we may not get something that's going to quite match the vibe here, because like these are kind of watercolor. This guy's a little more like cartoonish. So what I'm going to do is scroll through here and just see if there's any pencils that either match the vibe of our apple or match the vibe of our little worm in the apple. Now remember, I said I wasn't sure we'd find anything watercolor, but look at that. That's really cute. I think it's very similar vibe. Again, I still don't know why I get 2 of them every time. I only want 1. But I think that's pretty cute. We could kind of try to go with like a watercolor look. And I think that would be really fun with a UV DTF wrap because you can do lots of detailed designs. So what else can we think of that is a school thing. Let's look for a crayon. Now again, I want to look for kind of like a watercolor look, but what's cool is it's bringing up like crayon illustrations too, which I think is super fun. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can find anything that I really like that matches my crayon. So now that I've found a few designs that I liked, I just searched like watercolor and just found some stuff that I think fits the vibe. So let's go ahead and we'll just delete this little guy off of our artboard, and I just select him and hit delete on my keyboard. Now, like I said, I pulled in a few things just to see kind of what we wanted to put together. So let me spread them out a little bit. And I think I want to get rid of the green apple. I think he might be like not quite the right color now that I found some other things. And I found this little other pencil that I thought was cute with this pencil. This is not quite the right like shape or like vibe, so we'll go ahead and delete that one as well. But I think I want to keep these stars because they do sort of fit the look that we're going for. And honestly, like, I don't know if I love the apple, but we can mess with that in a minute once we start laying things out. Now, stuff is a little bit big because obviously this is going to look real weird the way it's laid out. If you want to change the size of anything, you can just select it by clicking on it, and you can see I put a blue box around it. That is how you size your items, just like you do in Design Space. So you can size it down using this little arrow on the corners. But if you do want it to be like a perfect size, you can use the transform over here and you can change the size. So if I want it to be like 1.5, you'll see here that it can transform it to a larger size. So if you have an exact measurement, you can use it over there. Or if you just want to kind of eyeball it, you can use these. So let me go ahead and size everybody down a bit. And I really don't think that apple's fit in my vibe. It's just too red, I think. But also I do feel like I need a fourth element. So I think we might just leave him. He may not be exactly what I want, but I think it'll be okay. Now with my Libbey cup wrap, I do think I'm going to get rid of the stars. They're just not really vibing. So when I do a Libbey cup wrap, I like to do a pattern around it, but you do what you like and how you like it. If you don't want to do a pattern, you don't want to scatter them, whatever you want to do is up to you. But I personally like to do a bit more of like a pattern look, and we can add text to this. We can do all sorts of things. So I do think this apple just isn't it. So I'm going to get rid of it, and we're going to work with 3 items. Now 3 items can be a little more difficult when you're doing a pattern, but we can still figure it out. Now, if I want to do this in a way that like I don't want them to be too big, I can just sort of play around with the layout. And what's great about this is it has this little snapping feature here. You can see the little blue line. That helps you know that it's lined up. So if I want to just sort of size all these things down a little bit more and then get them all centered, you can see that blue line is telling me they're centered. So I can make them a little bigger. And like I said, this part is really just playing with it and figuring out what looks good, how you like it. There's not really a wrong way to lay this out. And I think that looks pretty cute. So I'm okay with like that sizing. And then what I want to do is I'm going to kind of do the pattern, but in a different order through each line so that it becomes a pattern. Now, if I want to duplicate these, I could do it individually, which you can do over here, and you just click these 2 little squares. But if you just want to duplicate all 3, hold Shift on your keyboard, click all 3 of them, and then use the duplicate option. Now, it may not look like it duplicated, but when you pull this over, look at that, it did. You've got another set of them. So in order to keep that going, I'm just going to kind of move these around in a different order from the way that they are there. And then again, you can see you can use these little grid lines to really help you get everything lined up where you want it to be. So once I'm pretty happy with where I've got everything lined up, I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to grab that. I'm going to duplicate, and then you can just pull the next one over. So this pencil needs to go down here. This pencil can go up here, and then this book set can go there. So now you've got this little pattern, and if you want to just duplicate the whole thing again, you can do that. But just like in Design Space, which I think is super helpful, they have a group option. So once I've kind of got this core section of my pattern laid out the way I want, I'm going to go here and choose group. Now, when I go to move it, everything will move together. So if I want to resize and I want to make it a little bit bigger so it takes up a little more space, I can do that. If I want to make it smaller, I can do that. And this way, I'm not going to have to resize everything. I can just kind of resize it based on, how that one group is working. Then when you duplicate, you actually duplicate the entire group. So now you've got all of these extra pieces. Now, one thing I'm going to note, I don't think I love that it's not going to take up the whole cup. I've got one more line here, and my concern is that the next line is this piece right here. So if that's the case, what you can do, and I'm going to just delete this really quick. I'm going to go here to ungroup, and then I'm just going to move each of these edges over just a little bit. Now you'll notice here that our pencil is not centered with our book or our pen. I guess that is a pencil too, but our yellow pencil isn't centered. They have an alignment tool that we can use, and we can just center them. So all we have to do is just grab each line, kind of move it where we want it. And then again, I can just use the center option so everything's nice and centered. This is just going to spread them out a little bit more. And truly, you can play with this and figure out like how big you need stuff, where you want things to sit, whether you want to make them smaller. This is something that you can constantly change, keep doing, undoing, whatever you got to do. And then you can figure out like, okay, right there might be about right, you know, and we've got this little gap and it'll match up with that little gap. So once you're happy with where everything is sitting, we're ready to go. We can export our design. This is what we're going to use for our UV DTF cup wrap. Exporting is crazy simple. You just click this black export button. Now, one thing I want to make sure that we are aware of is making sure that we don't have a background, because if you're going to use this with UV DTF, you don't want a background on it. So just double check. So when we go to export, you are going to make sure that you export what you want to use. And then I just always double check the size. Then you've got it set to PNG. And then that's really, I mean, honestly, this is all pretty easy. But what you want to do is choose remove background and choose optimize quality. That's going to make sure that you're going to get the best quality of your image. Then simply click export and it'll open up a folder to ask where you want to save it. Now for this, I'm going to go ahead and make a folder in my YouTube, and we're going to call it, let's make a new folder. We're going to call it UV DTF cup wrap. I know there should have been a space, but it's fine. And go ahead and open that so that we can save our project. So let's call this bow cup wrap. That way we know what it is, and click save. Now, before we move on to like uploading this into a website to order from, I'm going to create a couple of more designs that I want to use, because I did see another one that I thought would be a cute idea for a cup wrap. So you can still design right here on this screen. It's very easy to do. If you go down here to the very bottom, you'll see here there's a little artboard option. If you click on that, it'll open up. You can like make a new artboard. And if you go like that, you'll see you have your artboard here. We can change the sizing on this. So if you want it to be the right size for the design that you're making here, so we're going to make it 9.4, and then you're going to make it 3.94 right there. That'll be the size of your next artboard, and then you can just pull it so that it's out of the way. But now you have them both on the same screen. You're not having to constantly open a new screen. Now for this one, I'm just going to put some crayons on it. So what I did was I went into elements and I searched for the word crayon. So if I look up crayon, there was a bunch of really, really cute ones here that I thought would be perfect, but I also favorited a set because I thought these would be so stinking cute. So I'm going to add these ones over to my artboard. Now, what I was kind of thinking with these is that we would put a couple of them, like line them up along the bottom here, and then we would put the teacher's name across the top. Now, I'm just going to use my name, but I do want to size these down. They're a little bit big, so I'm going to size them down. And then what I'm going to do is, again, duplicate them, and then I'm just going to put them next to each other until they cover the whole bottom here of our cup wrap. So again, just use that little duplicate button, and then you can just pull these over. Now, again, I want to make sure that I have enough that I can fit like maybe one more set, because I think if I make these so big that you're only using 3 sets, they might be a little, no, actually, I think that's pretty good. All right, we'll leave them that size. That looks pretty good, right? I think that looks nice. So if we want to add text, you don't just have to use images here. We can add text, and we can actually change the colors of these if we want to, which is really fun. So let's do that really quick, and I'll show you how to do that. I kind of like the colors these are, but if you want to change them, it's very easy. If you go here to see all 12 colors, it'll pull up all of the colors here, and you can actually adjust them. So maybe I want my blue to be darker. And then I want to use this light blue and I want to darken that one as well so that it matches with the blue. Now you can see I've got a darker blue and it was really easy. But if I still want to go in and maybe change the color completely, I can just choose this color. Maybe I want this one to be like super hot pink crayon. I can do that. But what's cool about this is the way I had it selected before, it was only selecting just that one crayon. But look, this one will change all the crayon colors. So you can really kind of dial this into brand colors, school colors, whatever you want it to be. Now let's say, you know what, I didn't really want to do that. I can use my undo button and I can just undo it all the way back to the original colors. So again, change it up, have fun with this, do what you want. It's really easy to create your own designs. But they also have a color palettes, which I think is so fun. So if you kind of scroll through these, you'll see that you can play with some of these colors and it'll change the colors based on the color palette. Now, it may not always work great with like these ones that have like the shading and whatnot, but it is a really fun way to come up and play with some other colors. But I think these colors are fine for what I want to do, so I'm good with that. So let's add my name to this. We're going to go over here to the left and choose the T's, and that's our text. Now, you can use like, they've got decorative stuff and all sorts of cool things that you can use, but you can also just put your own text in by using the add headline option. So I'm going to use add headline, and you'll see the word headline shows up. I'm going to close this, and then I'm just going to put Mrs. Blackstone. Whoops, and I'll spell my name right, I promise. Now, just like in Design Space, it's going to do text wrapping. That's completely normal. Once it's done and you've got like all your words typed in, you can stretch out your box and then you can resize this once you kind of figure out what text you want to use. Now down here is where we can have some fun with our text, and there's a lot of ways to change up your text. So first thing I like to do is choose the style or the font that I want. So you can see here, you've got all sorts of fun ones to choose from. There are, I mean, so many different fonts, but you can also upload your own font if you want to. It's really easy to do. It's just like installing a font. You just upload the file and it handles it for you. But I'm just going to find one in here that I like that kind of matches our vibe. So I will be right back, but I'm going to just scroll through and find something I like. I think this one's really cute. It's called Single Day and it looks like it's written in crayon. So I thought that one was adorable. Now this is where we can really start to play around with our text. I'm going to leave it this size, but we may adjust it in a minute. There's all sorts of options that you can use here. There's transform, which this one you can do things like angle, arch, rise, wave, all sorts of things. And these are really customizable because you can use these little nodes to kind of pull your text the way that you want it. I'm going to go ahead and just not use the transform. I just want it straight, but that's an option. I also really like the text shadow option because this one can be really fun to play with. So you can add a little shadow behind it, do like whatever you got going on here, blur the shadow, all sorts of stuff. Really, really fun. You can change the color of your shadow. So maybe you want to use this green that's in your crayon. You'll notice that you have all the colors from your crayons down here at the bottom too, which can be super duper helpful. Now again, do you have to have a shadow? No. You don't. You can do whatever you want. You can really play with this, make it your own. Whatever you want it to look like is up to you. I don't think I'm going to do a shadow right now, but I just wanted to show you that. And then you have text decoration. So this is where you can add things like textures to your text, all sorts of things. You can kind of play with the coloring, all that. Again, not really something I'm vibing with, but I think this could work for whatever you want to make and however you want to make your design. So let's say maybe with this, we want that Blackstone to stand out against like a dark beverage. You could add a text shadow, and I think I would do maybe more of like the block shadow with this. I would change the offset of it maybe change the angle, because this is where you can kind of play with it to make it stand out. And I kind of want a little less offsetty maybe. Just a little tiny one. Or you could do something like this where it's got like the outline. You really, again, play with it the way you want. If you want to turn the blur all the way down on this one, and then you want to offset it, you want to angle it. Again, lots of ways to play with this. It's whatever you want to do with it. There are so many fun ways to mess with this and to figure out like how you want it to look like. Look at that. You can mess with this outline width. You can come down here and mess with it. So like maybe you want to do something that's a little more like blobby. Again, do what you want. There's lots to do. But with that, you can really change this up. Now, I do want to make sure that this is fairly centered. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all the crayons. I'm going to group all the crayons together. Then I'm going to take everything on this artboard and I want to make sure that everything is where I want it to be. Well, I think I'm pretty happy with that one too. So I think that looks really good. Now this one is titled Artboard 2. You can retitle these. So I can call this Crayon Cup. And when you go to export it, it'll be easier for you to know which one you're exporting. So up here at the top where it says all artboards, go ahead and use this little check to uncheck all of them. And I just want to get Crayon Cup, and that's the one I want to download. Now, again, with this, you're going to go ahead and download this with the PNG. You want to remove the background, optimize quality. But for this one, let me change this up to 300 DPI just so that you can see what this is going to look like. I want to make one more thing for sure to go with this cute little set that I'm making. So for this, I want to do a little, like just a decal. And this decal could be put on anything. I'm going to put mine on a planner. But like I said, you can use this on anything that you want to. But I really want it to match this cute like crayon design because I think that'll look really cute on the notebook. So again, I want to open an artboard. Now for this, I know my sizing that I can use. So I'm going to change my sizing here over on the side. So I don't want to make my decal any bigger than like maybe 5x5 at the top size of it. So I'm going to pull my artboard up so it's not sitting on top of the other one. And for this, I can just simply copy and paste my designs. So I can ungroup this if I want to, just so I can get one of the crayons. I can go to more options and click copy, and then I can go up here, right click and click paste. Now it may ask you if you'll allow it to. We're going to allow it. Sometimes mine asks me and sometimes it doesn't. It just depends on the day. I'm going to grab the Mrs. Blackstone as well, and I'm going to go to copy, and then I'm going to just take it up here and paste it. Now I'm going to make some edits here and change some things up to the way that this looks. So I'm going to just make my crayons take up kind of a lot of my space. So they don't need to take up the whole space, but I want them to take up quite a bit of it. And then this Mrs. Blackstone, I'm actually going to put on 2 lines just so that we can have a little more of the name showing. Now, one thing I will say, these are really far apart, right? Like I'm not loving that. If you go down here, you have these different options. You have letter spacing, font size, and we have line height. We want to use line height here, and we want to bring the line height down. So see if I make it bigger, how far apart it gets. I want to bring it way, way down. Now, I will say that when it's a little number, it can be a little harder to like scooch it down to where you need it to be. So if it's kind of being a little difficult, you can just use the numbers. And like I'm going to change this to 55. And I still want to go a little closer. So let's go ahead and try 50. If you want to go even closer, we could do like 45, but I think that's pretty good. I think that looks fine the way it is. Now I'm going to bring my box in just a bit more so that it's just not sticking over the sides. It has no bearing on the actual design. It's just a personal choice from me. Now I can change the color of my name if I want to. So maybe I just want it to look like a little bit different. You can kind of do, again, really whatever you want for this. Definitely not white, I don't think. And I don't want to do it like the same color as a crayon. So I'm going to just sort of kind of pull this bar around and see if there's anything that like stands out to me as like maybe a color, like maybe a purple. A purple could be fun, like a darker purple. That's pretty. So again, this is where you can really have fun with this. We can add those shadows. We can add those outlines, whatever you want to do. You can make it a big circle. You can distort it, whatever you want to do. You can make a little flag. You can curve it. Again, really whatever you want to do to this. I'm going to go ahead and go down to text shadow. Because for this, I think I don't know what I want to do with it just yet. But I do kind of want to add a little shadow to this. And I think I'm going to make it black. Yeah, I kind of like that. That kind of works. I don't know how I feel about this outline one. I like the concept of it, but I just don't know if it's quite the look I'm going for or not. Like, I don't hate it, but I think it's taking up a little too much of the space here. So I can just sort of, try to change some things. Like this doesn't do anything, but you can come up here and you can change some things. I mean, you can see now I've got like this look. Whatever, play with it. Find out what you like. I don't think I like any of that. I really don't. I don't think that's the look I'm going for either. So again, just play with it. Find out what you like, how you want it to look. If you want, one way that I find is really fun to kind of add a little depth, I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste my letters. Now I'm going to go ahead and just change this over to black. So now what you'll see is I've got 2 of the layers here. And so instead of using the shadow option, I can actually just use the letters, like the multiple layers. Now, one thing I'm going to tell you, you'll notice that this layer is sitting on top, and I would rather have this layer go under the other one. So if that's the case, pretty easy to deal with. I'll show you how. When you want to change where a layer is sitting, you can right click on that layer, and then you see here we've got bring forward, bring front, send backwards, send to back. I want to send it backwards because I just want it behind that purple name. And now I've got like kind of a little more depth to this, and it can, you know, be whatever color I want. Now, like I said, I don't think I'm loving that purple, and that's totally okay. I can change that if I want to. Again, white really isn't going to work, although I don't hate it now that I kind of see it like this, because keeping in mind that our background on our planner is a different color. So our planner background's a little bit closer to like this color with the kind of greeny teal color. So I think honestly, I kind of like this. I think that looks pretty cute. Now I'm just going to double check the size of this because I may want to size it down just a little bit because my planner has a spiral, which I didn't take into account. So I am going to size this down just a little. And I think that's a little more close to where I want to be with my sizing. Now, once I'm happy, again, I just simply export it. Again, I can change this, so I can call this planner logo. And we can go ahead and export it. You want to choose the Artboard 3 or planner logo. So if I go here, you'll see Artboard 3 is selected. It's got our sizing, but again, remove the background and optimize the quality, and then you can click export. I'm going to save it over here. We're going to call it planner logo. And now we're ready to order our UV DTF designs. So I'm going to get those ordered. Should take a couple days to get here. I'm ordering them with vinyl and tool supply. I'll link them down below. They're fantastic. And then I'm going to show you how to apply these. You can see that designing them was super easy. What I like to do is I'll take a squeegee, and I usually like to use this kind of a bigger one. And I will put my cup on this to kind of keep it from rolling around. Now, if I'm going to be fully honest with you, I am not amazing at getting these exactly centered still to this day, but I try my ding-dangdest. Now, one thing I like to do as well, just because for me it's easier, I like to cut the tail off of this edge as close as I can to the design. It just helps me when I go to lay this down to not have this extra like clear piece. It's just a little kind of in my way. That's just a personal thing, so do what works best for you. Now there are all sorts of ways that you can do this, but one way I like to do it is I'll put my wrap under my cup, and then I just simply kind of make sure it fits, which it does. Oh, it fits so good. That's super duper cute. And then I kind of figure out where I want it to sit on the cup and like how high, because it's got a little of like bit of a lip at the top and the bottom, which I do account for when I measure this out, but I just sort of figure out, okay, that looks like pretty good about where I want to put it. So then what I do is I'm going to peel off one side of this. Now I will say I sometimes have trouble peeling that backing off, so I like to use a pin pen. That can be, this tool is so versatile. I absolutely use it for so many things that isn't just weeding. And then I peel back that plastic. Like I said, I struggle bus no matter what with this. It is not something I'm ever good at getting off. Now, once I've gotten that back off, which just was a struggle all in itself, but again, that's a me thing. I like to take and I cut off the edge of the backing just so I have some of my design sticking out. And this is just how I do it. You do what works for you. This is just like sort of my tip and how I like to do it. I'm gonna lay everything back down and make sure we're all straight and even again. I could have probably done that earlier, but that's okay. Now I'm gonna be careful where I place this end, because this end doesn't have anything protecting it against the sticky. once I'm happy, I'm gonna press this end down. This is where we're gonna put that. And now what I'm gonna do, I take it off of this. That's just to sort of hold it in place. And then I'm gonna come back over here and I'm gonna get the edge off again. And again, I do struggle with this so bad. But once I start this peeling, all I'm gonna do is kind of lay this down. And it's so hard to see where my thumbs are, but my thumbs are just pressing the plastic, which has the design on it, down onto the cup. And I try to go pretty slow, and I just try to make sure that I'm keeping it straight and even throughout the whole press. And then I'll come back in with the squeegee here in just a minute. But as I'm pressing it down, my images, if you can see, are kind of coming off onto the cup. So I just use my thumbs to help me release it from the plastic carrier sheet. And then once it's all done, your plastic sheet is gone. That's your protective sheet. And now we have the sticky, like the design on the cup. Now we still have a transfer tape piece to remove. But here's what I do. I'm gonna come in with my felt covered squeegee, and I like to use the felt one just because I think it's a little gentler. And I come through and I'm gonna press each of my designs here. And these are so cute. I love the way these look with little pencils and the pens and the little books. I think they came out adorable. Once I've gone all the way around the cup, now I will test this, but typically I do like to wait a minute or two before I start peeling the transfer off. I don't know why, and I think it's because it's cold down here, but I do find that having it a little warmed up, or at least set, is better for me. But these cups are pretty warm. It wasn't super cold down here, so I'm gonna go ahead and go slow just in case. But look at how nice that is. It's so cute. Yeah, see, I feel like I need to maybe let it warm up a little. But I think it's doing okay. It doesn't seem too bad. So let me go ahead and peel all of the transfer off. And then we'll put the next one on, and we will then do the journal as well. Now I want to put a UV DTF design that we made with Kittl. I'm going to put it on this little planner. Now, don't come for me. I know this is 2026 and it starts in January, but this was the one that I had. But look at how stinking cute that's going to be. And this is so simple. That's one thing that I really love about the UV DTF is how easy it is. And you saw how easy it was to design this too. And you can go as crazy as you want with them. Make them as fancy or as simple as you wish. And then you can see like this one has that added shadow. So I'm just gonna figure out where I want it on here, set it down. And this is just like putting on a vinyl decal. There's no real difference here. You just place it down. You're gonna use your squeegee. Now again, I am gonna let this warm up a little bit just before I peel it because I don't want anything to happen. But that's just a personal thing. You see what works best for you, but I do find like if I warm it up with my hands, I can just set them on there. But I'm gonna let this sit for just a minute and then we'll go ahead and peel off this transfer. I've let this sit for a few minutes, so we're gonna go ahead and peel this back. Now I will say that the frosted cover on this is not always the greatest to stick things to, so I do go a little bit slower than I normally would with a UV DTF. I just really take my time just to make sure that everything stays stuck down. It's the cover type on this because it's like that frosted plastic, so you just sort of go a little slower, and I just peel this back really slow. So let me get this all peeled off, and then we'll show you what everything looks like.
Here are the finished items. Again, I ordered the UV DTF wraps from Vinyl and Tool Supply. I will link them down below. They're so good. I had far less problems with these than I've had with others. Really happy with them. Super love the bright colors. They printed really, really nice. I designed these in Kittl, and if you want to try out Kittl, I'll link it down below for you. That way you can check it out as well. Kittl's super easy to use. Just take your time, play around. You're not going to mess anything up. Just check out all the different settings and ways that you can manipulate your images. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments down below. I'm always happy to answer those for you. Be sure you're subscribed here on YouTube. And as always, happy crafting.